Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, we apologize for being 10 minutes over our starting time. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the reading of the Monetary Policy Statement for December 2024. Before we go into the statement, let me introduce to you who's around the table. I'll start with the Deputy Governor, Mr. Michael Ating Ego, who's in the middle of the table. On his immediate right is Dr. Adam Mugume, the Executive Director Research. On the left, we have Mr. Hannington Waswa, who's standing in for the Executive Director Supervision. We have Gloria, who's from Financial Stability. My name is Kenneth Egesa, and next to me is Andrew Elwana. We are both from Communications and Public Relations. Deputy Governor, I would like to welcome you to read the statement for the Monetary Policy Statement of December 2025.
Thank you so much, Kenneth, and a very good afternoon to all the viewers and the listeners. Welcome to the reading of the Monetary Policy Statement for the month of December 2024. On the 5th of December 2024, the Bank of Uganda Monetary Policy Committee maintained the central bank rate, CBR, at 9.75%. Domestic inflation has remained subdued. Over the 12 months leading to November 2024, annual headline and core inflation averaged 3.3% and 3.5% respectively. The stability in this inflation is largely due to the previous monetary policy actions that have supported the shilling exchange rate, declining food crop prices due to favorable weather, and the diminishing global inflationary pressures. Specifically, in November 2024, annual headline inflation remained steady at 2.9%, while core inflation slightly decreased to 3.8% from 3.9% in October 2024, driven by a decline in services inflation, particularly in passenger transport services. Looking ahead, Uganda's positive economic prospects, strengthened by capital inflows into the mining and the oil industries, could continue supporting the shilling exchange rate. Along with favorable food and oil prices and decreasing global inflationary pressures, this is expected to keep inflation low. The Bank of Uganda projects that average core inflation will remain below the medium-term target of 5%, averaging 3.7% in 2024/25 and 4.2% in financial year 2025/2026. However, inflation is expected to stabilize around the target of 5% in the medium term. There are, of course, several risks to this inflation forecast. On the downside, inflation could be lower if the exchange rate appreciates, partly due to stronger capital inflows related to the oil development, and also if the global growth and inflation remain low. On the upside, inflation could be higher if global inflation, which is still above target in several countries, reverses its declining trend due to heightened geopolitical tensions. Also, a severe depreciation pressures arising from tight global financial conditions due to potential policy reversals in advanced economies, leading to capital flight to safer havens. Geopolitical tensions, if this intensify, and then the disruption of trade leading to sustained increases in shipping costs or commodity prices, thereby lowering the global growth and further limiting the domestic economy's supply capacity. And if the weather conditions become extreme, this could drive food prices higher than projected. Overall, the risk to inflation outlook are balanced. On economic activity has remained strong with output around its potential. High frequency indicators of economic activity and business sentiment suggests sustained strengthening in economic activity driven by resilient domestic expenditure. The GDP growth outlook remains unchanged since the October 2024 monetary policy statement, with growth expected to be between 6% and 6.5% in financial year 2024/25 and between 7% and 7.5% over the medium term. This growth trajectory is supported by strategic government interventions, increased foreign direct investment in the extractive industry, and the commencement of oil production in financial year 2025/26. Also, this growth outlook remains under considerable uncertainty. On the downside, growth could be lower if heightened geopolitical risks and potential changes to global trade and fiscal policies trigger additional economic shocks, disrupting trade and supply chains and resulting in higher commodity prices, especially oil. Also, the ongoing tightness in the domestic financial conditions, if this persists, could lead to higher borrowing costs, and increased domestic borrowing to finance fiscal deficits may crowd out the private sector and worsen the already limited private sector credit. And also, if the capacity of fiscal policy to respond to emerging global shocks is constrained, we could see growth lower. But on the upside, growth could be higher if government interventions result in improvements in productivity growth, and if investment is stronger in the extractive industry, and also if the global economy picks up, supporting exports, remittances, tourism, and foreign direct investment. And weather conditions that are favorable that support crop production could also lead to higher growth. So again, on the overall, the growth outlook are balanced. On this ground, the MPC noted that although inflation is projected to remain below the target in the near term, geopolitical conditions and policy uncertainty could contribute to increased volatility in economic activity and inflation in the short to medium term. Consequently, the MPC maintained the policy rate at 9.75%. The bands on the CBR remain at +/-2 percentage points, and the margins on the CBR for the rediscounts and the bank rates at 3 and 4 percentage points respectively. As a result, the rediscount and the bank rate remain at 12.75% and 13.75% respectively. We think that at the current CBR level, the monetary policy stance remains conducive to sustainable economic growth amid price stability that supports Uganda's socio-economic transformation. Future adjustments to the policy rates will be guided by incoming data and continuous evaluation of risks to inform the MPC's decisions. And our viewers and listeners, that marks the end of the reading of the monetary policy statement for the month of December 2024. Thank you for your very kind attention, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael Atingi Ego, Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, for the reading of the monetary policy statement. As is the norm, we will now open this up for questions. The Deputy Governor is available to answer your questions together with his team. So those of you who are watching online and would like to ask questions, please put your questions in the comments. We'll be able to pick them up. And those who are in the room, we'll give you the first opportunity to raise your questions. Before you come in with your questions, let me also mention that the statement is going to be put on our website. So if you'd like to get the statement word for word, please go to our website, www.bou.or.ug, and we'll also put it on our social media channels. Okay, can we have the first set of questions? Who's ready? Please let us know your name, the media house you're representing, and go ahead with your questions.
My name, I'm called Sudil Byaruhanga. I work with NTV Uganda. My first question is going to the Deputy Governor. I'm interested in knowing how far with the investigation when it comes to the 60 billion shillings that was illicitly taken out of the coffers. The public out there is so much misinformation going on. So would want you, much as there is an investigation that is going on by police and the rest of the agencies, internally, you have also systems. What are you doing about it? What systems have you put in place to ensure that you deter such scenarios from reoccurring? The third one, if there are people who are aiding in as witnesses in this investigation from your staff, would like to know how many are there. You may not give us the details. Those who are, I was told or informed that some are witnesses. So we want a clarification on that. And then also, after giving the outlook of the policy statement, there is this issue of percentages, especially by the bankers. The government came in to intervene to protect the borrowers, because there is always a saying that these banks sometimes work as a cartel, like how the fuel industry is or was, until government intervened, and we see now things lowering in terms of prices. So what's the plan on the government side, or BOU, to rein on these banks? Because it's a free market economy. Everybody decides. You come, buy whoever wants, you come, take. If you don't, leave. But how do you intend to protect these borrowers, like the government has tried to protect borrowers from these money lenders? The banks continue to increase their interests, giving different sorts of reasons that sometimes the borrowers can't even comprehend. So I would like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir. I think for purposes of not mixing up things, I'll request the Deputy Governor to respond to the questions related to monetary policy. I have taken the questions on the payments incidents. I've written it down. The Deputy Governor will respond to these questions at the tail end of this press conference. So please rest assured that your questions will be responded to. But for now, I'd like to request the Deputy Governor to first respond to the monetary policy related questions. Deputy Governor, please.
Yes, my friend Sudhir, thank you for your question. You say that banks operate as a cartel. I think we need to investigate that. I'm hearing it from you for the first time that there's a cartel out there. So Adam, you should put that on your research agenda to ascertain whether really that is true. But most importantly, look, we are in a liberal environment, and that policy choice has not been reversed. What is important that you should know is each of these commercial banks has their own business model, and that their own business model is driven by various costs. So if I'm dealing with the corporates, and somebody is dealing with small medium enterprises, and someone is dealing with really the bottom of the pyramid, you don't expect them to have the same operating costs, and therefore they can't operate in a cartel. I would agree if they were having a single product, like the oil companies that you're talking about. But these guys have got different business models, serving different niches of the society. So it would make absolute nonsense to say this is the rate at which you are going to operate. And then, of course, there are other things that we can do as a central bank to see what we can do to lower the interest rates. information asymmetry between the borrowers and the lenders. I think we are working on that. We're trying to enhance the number of participants who are contributing to the credit reference bureaus. We're including utility companies and all other creditors, so that that information asymmetry that could be creating uncertainty about the borrowers is kind of like reduced. Also, we're encouraging banks to go high-tech, use technology, all right, to lower their cost of doing business, all right? You don't have to have brick and mortar everywhere. You can have agents, you can have mobile apps, you can do things. That alone will lower your costs. And then, of course, there are other costs of doing business that these banks face. I'm not going to repeat the factors that we have already told you, all right? But I think what we need to do, we need to ensure that the overall environment is conducive to doing business. And if we can have increased competition in the banking sector, that also can contribute to the lowering of costs. But there's no business of a cartel, and therefore you cannot think of a single interest rate for each commercial bank, given their different business models. But maybe I will ask Adam and Huntington to add in case I've missed out something.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor. The only thing I would want to add onto what the Deputy Governor submitted is that Bank of Uganda has issued consumer protection guidelines to supervise financial institutions, that is commercial banks, credit institutions, and microfinance deposit-taking institutions. And using these guidelines, we also encourage the customers to review their relationships with their bankers on a regular basis. If you think the rates you're getting from Bank A are higher than what you can get from Bank B or Bank C or Bank D, you're free to move. And I think that's how the market is supposed to be operating. Secondly, we have a window where we receive complaints in circumstances where customers don't think they are getting value for their money. And these complaints, for the record, are not intended to protect customers alone. They also protect the lenders, because there are so many cases where customers borrow and don't pay back. In the process of recovery, of course, these customers run Bank of Uganda for protection. So what the central bank does is to get between the two and mediate. Who is on the wrong, who is on the right, and we get a middle of the road position that ensures that whatever conflicts you have are resolved amicably. Thank you. I think that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much for those responses. Deputy Governor, we have one here from Fred Ojambo of Bloomberg. And the question is, how are the tariff cuts and deportation proposals by US President-elect Donald Trump likely to impact Uganda's monetary policy, and how are we preparing for this?
Okay, thank you. I'll just say something and then maybe ask Adam to add. Of course, following the election of President Trump sometime in mid-November, we saw the US dollar strengthening. And the strengthening was premised on a number of expectations, which were largely driven by the campaign messages that the Trump team had sent to the American voters. The issues of tariffs, the issue of deportation of illegal immigrants, and a number of other factors. I think what the market did, they factored all that in when he was announced as the president-elect. And most commentators thought these were going to be inflationary. So their anticipation about significant cuts in the policy rates going forward were kind of like reduced. And as you're aware, the Fed chair also came out strongly that he will do what it takes to control inflation. So as a result, the market then factored that, look, the interest cuts that we're looking at may not really come handy. Even the frequency might reduce. And as a result, the US dollar strengthened. It strengthened and it affected a number of advanced, emerging, and frontier currencies. So that is what happened immediately. But in terms of the overall impact, I think it depends on the timing. It depends on the quantum. And it depends on the impact of these two actions on the US economy. That's how the impact will be felt in Uganda. Of course, we're aware that President-elect Trump is already putting in place a team so that when he assumes presidency in late January, he's on record as having said he will immediately implement his campaign promises. So if that were to happen, then maybe the market is going to factor higher interest rates going forward with the currency, maybe then begin to appreciate. And it will certainly affect most of the emerging and frontier economies like Uganda through the exchange rate depreciation, if that were to happen. But of course, whether it will happen immediately, you also have to bear in mind that not all members of his party might be agreeable to that. So we don't know what's going to happen. But so it is, in my view, it is the timing of the implementation, it is the size, the quantum of these policies, how they're going to be implemented, and the impact on the US economy and the market expectations is what's going to drive how it's going to affect the Ugandan economy. But Adam, you read more than this one.
Thank you, DG. Yes, I think DG has explained exactly what we also see. But the starting point is to know that whatever happens in the global economy spills over into the domestic economy. And therefore the reaction, the policy reaction is, how we are going to react will depend exactly how the global economy evolves. Second, the most important thing also is to note how do other countries react. If you impose a tariff, say 100% as has been rumored on China, how does China respond? The same story to Mexico or other countries. So the response of the other major countries also will impact. Actually, that is what is likely to impact more on the global growth in addition to what USA is doing. So in the event that the reaction from the other parties or from other major countries, including China, etc., on USA, if it happens, then automatically we are looking at the whole thing impacting global growth, and then we start seeing how it fits through into our domestic economy, either through trade, through financial flows, like DG said, on exchange rate, but also on other things like workers' remittances, FDI, etc. So it is still too early to know exactly how the environment is going to evolve, but it's something that we are cautious of, and therefore our stance will be really reactive to what comes out, because we can't influence what goes on in the global economy. Thank you.
And maybe, Adam, just to add, just when I was reading the Monetary Policy Statement, we did mention that that the MPC noted that although inflation is projected to remain below targets in the near term, the geopolitical conditions and policy uncertainty could contribute to increased volatility in economic activity and inflation in the short term. So consequently, that's what has made us maintain the CBR at 9.75%. Ordinarily, this could have led to a reduction, but because of this uncertainty, we've maintained at 9.75%.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael and Dr. Adam, for that exhaustive response. Do we have any other questions Yes, please. Introduce yourself, media house, and then go to the questions.
Thank you, Deputy Governor. My name is Vincent Kasozi. I am a journalist with Sanyu FM. You did just mention geopolitical shocks and how you factored in these into the monetary policy statement and in effect the CBR. My question is related to the charged political environment that we're entering into. That's 2025 heading into 2026, where we see a slowdown in economic activity and capital flight, where people are very cautious. What's your take on this?
Thank you. Again, it goes back to some of the projections that we'd made, right? We think that the increased activity in the oil and the gas sector, the impact of government expenditure, particularly through the parish development model, and the policy actions that we have taken, I think should be able to contain to a large extent any possible adverse things come out of that. So I would not want to begin really speculating that's going to happen, but when I look at the factors on the ground that are underpinning growth, that are going to underpin inflation, I think these are strong enough for us to maintain our projections. But maybe, Adam, you have something to add.
Thank you. I have nothing useful to add, but as the narrator said, projections. I don't think it is right to borrow what happened yesterday to today. Let us. I think the current outlook, the economy, the way the economy is now in terms of the economic fundamentals, FDI in the oil sector and other minerals, agricultural production response, all this seems to be on a strong foundation that unless something drastic happens that we don't expect in our projection, that there will be a serious reversal on the outlook. And I think the monetary policy is reflective of all those scenarios, different scenarios that could evolve, and therefore taking a stance even today based on what we see in the outlook. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have your question, please? Remember to introduce yourself and the media house.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Baleke. I work for CGTN Africa. Dr. Michael, or Dr. Adam, I wanted to find out, maybe to take it in a different way, the recent policy decisions that have been made. Have you been able to track them down to the local person? And what do you see on the street? And what do you read on the street? Because it's coming to Christmas. Those days would have a whole jam and people getting into the shops. And people have actually brought in their things from wherever they are coming from, China and all that. And they are seated with their stuff in the shops. No one is buying. So these policy decisions that you have made, can we be able to track them down to the local person? Are they increasing, putting more money into their pockets? Number two would be the government about debt. I wanted you to give us some highlights on our debt generally. How are we doing when it comes to debt? We know the government has said it is going to put a limit on borrowing in the coming, probably in the coming financial year. But we know not much money is coming in from all the other external sources, which means the government may easily come back to the domestic market to borrow this money. But they're saying they're going to limit their borrowing. And where is this money going to come from if they don't definitely borrow? Where is it going to come from? But we just want you to give us some highlights on how we have done. And generally how, since it's coming to the end of the year, if you can help us sum it up, how the economy, we know you've written a statement, but how, in your view, has the economy, how are we closing, and how do you think we may start there? Thank you.
Yes, Michael, thank you for your question. I'll share it with Adam, of course, because you address it to the two of us. I think let's distinguish between real and nominal money balances. Look, you can have very big amount of nominal money balances, but it depends what basket of goods and services can that money buy. At the same time, you may not be having significantly high amount of nominal balances, but the real value of that money is what counts. So in other words, I'm talking about the extent to which we have been able to contain the increase in the price level. I think is very, very important. There's no point of you carrying, let's say, 1 million shillings today, and what can I say? Let's take a price whose item is was about 500,000 at the beginning of the year. You could buy two of those items, all right? And then you have 2 million shillings at the end of the year. But because of inflation, maybe that item is now 1.5 million shillings. It means you are not able to buy. So there is the reduced increase in the nominal balances that people are holding in their pockets for a number of reasons, maybe. But I think the most important thing is that prices are not rising as fast as they would have otherwise had we not implemented prudent monetary and fiscal policies. So yes, people don't have money. Okay, maybe the growth of nominal balances in people's pockets is not fast, but I think that money still has a purchasing power that has not been eroded significantly. That's how I would want to answer your question. I don't know whether I'm clear, but you can translate to the ordinary man in Katoi, because maybe my message may not be well heard. Now, Adam, can you tackle the question of debt? I will sum it up.
Thank you, Michael, for the question on debt. I think government debt, as the numbers clearly show, is number one, is what we call that is manageable or sustainable, looking at where we are and the future. So number one, it is sustainable. Number two, which means sustainability means that it can afford to repay the debts in outer years. Okay, so there's no doubt about that. Now, the other question is, but what about, are we likely to see a fallback into domestic borrowing in a short while, like this year or next year? I think in the budget that was read, I think sometime back in June, the government put how much money it is going to borrow from the domestic market. I think it was around 8.9. So far, they have borrowed around half of that in the domestic money market. So yes, is it likely to increase domestic borrowing beyond that? Most likely, well, it will also depend on tax revenue performance, but also alternative sources of revenue. We know that government is finalizing arrangement with the World Bank in terms of budget support and other loans, which could be a fallback even compared to domestic borrowing. So that is another avenue. But also, incidentally now, it is the problem is that global interest rates we had projected to decline probably could rise if what we read could come through. But there is also alternative that the government can substitute domestic borrowing by foreign borrowing in that case. so that you leave space for domestic borrowing. Overall, I don't think we see any danger on the government side in terms of looking at the budget and what they are doing. But I think we shall see more clearly as time goes by in terms of whether they are able to mobilize the tax revenues as projected. But they also have what we call domestic resource mobilization strategy. And I think what we have been reading and what the numbers we have been getting from URA, the taxes have been slightly above target, which is a welcome development, meaning that probably the tax revenues are on track. So overall, I don't think we have a challenge with public debt.
Okay, thank you, Adam. So let me just sum it up. In the very short term, right, it looks as if we are having a challenge. But let's look at the medium term. I think the medium term outlook is very positive. What we need to do between the Bank of Uganda and the Ministry of Finance is we need to secure the near term so that it does not affect the positive outlook in the medium term. By that I mean to say we should really try to live within our means in the near term so that there's no adverse effect on the medium term. What do I mean by the medium term? Government has put in significant amount of policy, all right, and some reforms to increase growth going forward. If you look at the oil and the gas sector, we expect to begin commercial oil production around 25, 26, 27. And the oil revenues through taxation, through increased exports of that, should be able to secure and increase our capacity to, first of all, service the debt and also leave some foreign exchange in the market for other players to use to support economic growth. So the challenge that we have now is let's try to work together with the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Uganda to ensure that we keep these key economic variables like inflation, exchange rate, and borrowing contained. If you look at the fiscal path, it's pointing towards fiscal consolidation. The deficit is expected to come down into the medium term. And I think that is a policy response. So yes, there might be challenges now, but there's a commitment by government to fiscal consolidation.
Thank you very much. Yes, Vincent.
Thank you, Kenneth. Vincent, once again, Sanyo FM. This is just a quick one. I want to ask why some legacy banks don't find it lucrative to operate in our retail market. We know that Standard is selling its retail and wealth operations to someone subject to regulatory approval. We saw Barclays doing the same thing, selling to ABSA. What does this tell you about our business environment, retail-wise?
Hanito, can I defer that to you?
Thank you, Governor. Yes, indeed, last week, Standard came up with a statement indicating that they're selling off their wealth and retail book, and they want to concentrate on the corporate and institution segment of the market. Standard has been doing banking business for over 170 years globally and 112 years in Uganda. And over time, businesses change the focus depending on what they're looking for. The shareholder focus keeps on changing. Now they're looking at corporates and institutions because they think that's where they have a comparative advantage. And they want to leave the retail segment to banks that have the capacity and the competitive advantage to concentrate in. From our perspective, we don't think there's anything wrong with our market. Because if you look at the outlook of this country. It is way better than it has been since independence. There are new resources that are coming up. We have a growing population, so consumption is going to increase. Incomes are likely to increase because of the opportunities that are coming up. The oil sector is opening up. From where we sit, I think it's a business decision to focus on the corporates, and there's nothing wrong with the retail market. They just want to leave the retail market to banks that have a competitive and comparative advantage in, and they concentrate where they think they have strengths. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anton. And just to add to that, again, we talked about the business models, how each bank adopts a business model. But of course, now you might be worried that they're running away from the ordinary man and what have you. But let me assure you one thing. We recently rolled out environmental social governance principles that are being implemented by all the supervised financial institutions. And we are asking each financial institution to show how they are contributing to supporting the local man, the local person at the very bottom of the pyramid, right? So the strategy, for example, adopted by Standard Chartered Bank, they're saying, look, we don't want to direct a deal with the local person down there, right? We are going to work through institutions such as BRAC, right? We'll be working with them, we'll be wholesaling credit to BRAC, and then let BRAC retail it, right? That's where their comparative advantage is, all right? Because for us, we're asking every bank must participate in extending credit to the person at the last mile. How you do it is your business model. So Standard Chartered has opted to go through another financial institutions, as are going through mobile money companies. They're collaborating with mobile money companies to retail credit for them so that they can focus on their area where they have a comparative advantage while meeting our requirements of increasing credit to the last mile.
Thank you very much. Sudhir, you asked a question at the beginning of this Q&A, and I promised to come back to these questions. Thank you for being patient. Deputy Governor, if I may just go over the issues highlighted in the question. Sudhir and the public would like to get more information about the payments incident. We released a statement on this earlier this week, but we also mentioned that we'd provide more information when the investigations are complete. However, there are some issues that you could bring some light to. So first and foremost, there is the issue of whether it was a hack. Would you like to clarify on that? The amounts that were involved. More importantly, the steps that BOU has taken since the incident happened to recover these monies, and how this investigation is impacting staff. If you could comment on the staff issues, the weaknesses that have been mentioned by Sudhir. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Governor.
Okay, thank you, Sudhir, for that question. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that investigations are still ongoing, and I would not like to tamper with those ongoing investigations. So in response to your questions, I'm going to give you facts, just only facts, all right? That will, of course, become known. And these ones we are sure of. So, and I would like to reverse the question that you've asked. First of all, we're going to start with the amounts that were involved, because there have been lots of things flying in the media. Everybody wakes up with a speculation. It becomes a lead story. So there's a lot of confusion, all right? And it's not good, particularly when you're targeting your central bank to be having that kind of. So I think I need to bring out something, make them clear. I want to be on the record for this, and I'll be held accountable for it. So I'm speaking authoritatively on this. Whatever has been going out in the media, everybody is free to speculate if they want, but they should speculate within the confines that's based with information. So I'll start with the amounts involved. You know, there were 2 transactions which were relating to debt service payments. The payment transactions in question included a payment to the World Bank of $6.134 million, which was instead paid to a company called Roadway Company Limited through a bank in Japan called MUFG. And that was on the 12th of September 2024. And then the second transaction was meant to be a payment to the African Development Fund of $8.596 million. It was instead paid to MJS International, London in the UK, on the 28th September 2024. Now, on the part of Bank of Uganda, upon discovering that the payments had not reached the intended beneficiaries, that is the World Bank and the African Development Fund, Bank of Uganda immediately commenced internal investigations and reported the matter to the relevant government agency, and that was the police, Uganda Police Force, the Criminal Investigation Directorate, and also the Financial Intelligence Authority. But beyond that, Bank of Uganda took the necessary steps to recover these funds. That was really our key priority, that of these funds that had been diverted, how quickly can we get back these funds? So that's what we've been working on. We put all our efforts in trying to recover these funds. So we instructed our correspondent bank, that is Citibank, and the banks where the funds had been credited to the accounts of the fraudsters, instructing them to freeze the said funds due to the suspected fraud that had taken place. We have since recovered $8.205 million. I repeat, we've recovered US dollars 8.205 of the funds that had been sent to MJS International, London, UK. And these funds have been credited back to the Uganda Government Consolidated Fund account here in Bank of Uganda. It's not frozen like the media is speculating. These funds have been credited back to the Consolidated Fund account here in Bank of Uganda. And we are pursuing the balance of $391,000 that went to this bank in London through, again, our correspondent bank, Citibank. However, Bank of Uganda has not recovered the amount paid to Roadway Company through the MUFG Bank of Japan. This bank has not been very cooperative. That's why we haven't recovered this money. Had the bank been as cooperative as the bank in the United Kingdom, even this money should have been recovered. So while they haven't been cooperative, we are working hard with our domestic and international partners, particularly through the Financial Intelligence Authority, to pursue the recovery of these funds. And we also expect the ongoing investigations to support our recovery efforts and help us understand the full extent of these fraudulent transactions. But more importantly, we are also cooperating with the Office of the Auditor General, who are conducting their independent investigations. So that is what it relates on the amount of funds that were involved. So forget about all this media speculation on the amount of the funds involved and who took the fund. The media, you wake up with your own story and you put it there, and because Ugandans are looking for such story, they'll buy it. But take this one from me as authoritative. And then the second question. There's even this, which is even bad, that Bank of Uganda was hacked. Look, it is absolutely not correct. I repeat, it is absolutely not correct that the BOU IT systems were hacked. Because hacking involves the act of gaining unauthorized access to computer systems and networks. And I can tell you with all the confidence that there is no evidence whatsoever of any unauthorized access to the BOU IT systems to divert the funds that I have just told you about. These fraud incidents were initiated outside the BOU IT systems to divert the funds. Bank of Uganda is a paying entity. You get instructions to pay, and we pay as instructed. So, let me repeat, the fraud incidents were initiated outside the Bank of Uganda IT systems, and instructions were received by Bank of Uganda to pay the wrong beneficiaries, leading to the subsequent diversion of the funds. Now, where the diversion took place, how and who were involved is a subject matter of the ongoing investigation, for which I cannot comment. But be rest assured, the Bank of Uganda IT systems remain fully operational. They are secure and uncompromised. Forget the nonsense out there that the BOU IT systems were hacked. That's my message on that. The BOU IT systems were never hacked. Our systems are operational, they're secure, and they're uncompromised. Now, on the staff involvement, look, whenever such a thing happens, you report this one to the police, and it's only normal for the police to take statements from all the staff who have a relationship or who work on such matters, who take part in the process of payments. So what has happened is that we are cooperating with the relevant authorities to provide information that is needed to conclude the investigation. To the best of our knowledge, no Bank of Uganda staff has been implicated thus far. So all the rumors you see there, all these things in the social media, I mean, there's no grain of truth in it whatsoever. Bank of Uganda staff have cooperated with the investigating authority, and to the best of our knowledge, no staff has so far been implicated, no been named in this. So maybe let me conclude on this. I'm just asking the public to remain patient and allow the relevant government agencies to conclude their investigations. Bank of Uganda will issue a comprehensive report. We will issue very comprehensive report on the incident once the investigations are complete. For now, we recommend that if you want any information, you source it from the related, from those agencies who are conducting the investigations, to avoid misinformation. This idea of bashing the central bank is not good. I hope, Sudhir, I've answered your question.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor. We've run out of time, unfortunately, and we will close this session. If you have any more questions, please reach out to us through our normal contacts. Thank you very much for taking time to come. Thank you very much those who are tuned in, and thank you very much Deputy Governor Mr. Michael Ating Ego, Dr. Adam Mugume, Mr. Hannington Waswa, Miss Gloria Kasasira, and all the members of staff of BOU who are here for making this happen. We will now have, after this, a Luganda translation, and I request the team that has been handling English to leave the room so that we do the Luganda. Thank you very much. Bassebo ne bannyabo abali ku mutimbagano n'abo abali muno mu conference room, tugenda kubeera ne Luganda version ya monetary policy statement. Please go ahead.
Abatulaba n'abatuwuliriza mwenna mwebale nnyo, era nga ngenda kutaputa statement Deputy Governor gy'awadde abamawulire era gy'asomye. Akakiiko akatuulera akasalawo ku byenfuna by'eggwanga leero katudde ne kasalawo nti akabonero ako kwe twewolera ensimbi okuva mu bbanka ez'ebyobusuubuzi kasigadde ku bitundu 9 n'obutundutundu 7.5 ku buli 100. Kalabye nti speed emiwendo kwe girinnyira esigadde eri wansi, emiwendo gy'ebintu ebigulibwa mu maduuka tegirinnye nnyo era gisigadde ku bitundu 2.9 ku buli 100, era nga kino kivudde okusingira ddala ku miwendo gy'okusaabaza abantu nga kusigadde kuli wansi. Bwe tuba tulengera ewala okusinziira ku miwendo engeri gye ginaalinnya oba okukkamu egy'ebintu bye tugula mu maduuka, tulaba nti tegijja kukula nnyo era tegijja kulinnya nnyo, era ensonga lwaki kijja kuba bwe kityo nti tulabye nti waliwo ebyensimbi ebiyingira naddala ku nsonga ez'amafuta n'ebyomuwendo eby'omu ttaka bijja kwongera siringi ya Uganda amaanyi. Bw'ogattako nti emiwendo gy'emmere gisigadde wansi oba tegirinnye okutwaliza wamu, nti ate n'embeera y'obudde tebadde mbi, tujja kulaba nti emiwendo speed kwe girinnyira tejja kuba ya waggulu. Ebiyinza okukosa emiwendo okulinnya kijja kuva ku ekisooka, we tutunuulira ebitambula mu nsi yonna, entalo eziriwo wamu n'ebyensimbi engeri gye bitambula mu nsi yonna, singa byeyongera okubijja ate awo tuyinza okulaba nti emiwendo giyinza okulinnya ku speed. Naye okutwaliza wamu ebyenfuna mu nsi yonna okutwaliza wamu bisigadde si bibi nnyo, era nga kino kijja kwongera ssente yaffe okuba ey'amaanyi, okusigala nga teserebye, era we tuba tulaba nti entalo tezeeyongedde n'obudde, embeera y'obudde nga nayo tebizze, tujja kulaba nti emiwendo gy'ebintu bye tugula mu maduuka tegyeyongera nnyo. Bwe tutunuulira ebyenfuna okutwaliza wamu, mu luzungu bakiyita economy, bwe tutunuulira embeera y'ebyenfuna yaffe tulaba nti esigadde ekula ku sipiidi nga bwe yasuubibwa, nga ekulidde ku bitundu 6 ku 100, era nga bwetyo bw'ejja okulinnya, kisuubirwa nti ejja kulinnya ku sipiidi eyo ebitundu 6 ku buli 100 mu mwaka guno ogw'ebyensimbi. Naye we tukiwa emyaka 2 oba 3 mu maaso, tusuubira nti ebyenfuna mu ggwanga lino ate bijja kwongera okulongoka n'okukula ku bitundu 7.5 mu myaka nga 2 okujjaawo. Lwaki? Tulaba nti bamusigansimbi beeyongera okusiga naddala mu by'emiwendo eby'omu ttaka wamu ne mu mafuta. So ekyo kijja kwongera okulongoosa embeera y'ebyensimbi mu ggwanga. Bwe tutunuulira biki ebiyinza okukosa enkula y'ebyensimbi eyo, tulaba era nti entalo n'okusoowagana okugenda mu maaso mu nsi yonna okutwaliza wamu, twongera n'okulaba nti waliwo ensi ennene nti singa zongera okunyweza ebyenfuna byazo kiyinza ate okukosa engeri ebintu bye tugula okuva ebweru gye biyingiramu, ebyenfuna ne bisereba, naye nga ekyo si kye tulaba kati. Ekiyinza okutuyamba ate okutwongera okukula nti singa gavumenti ebintu oba pulaani zeegezaako okussa mu nkola, singa zikola tujja kulaba nga ate tweyongedde okukula. Ate era bwe tulaba n'okulaba nti embeera y'obudde mu maaso awo esuubirwa okubeera ennungi nga bw'ebadde, ekyo kijja kuyamba mu kukuza emmere oba okusimba emmere n'okukungula, tulabe nti emiwendo egyo tegyeyongera era kiba kituyamba. N'olw'ensonga eyo, akakiiko kasazeewo nti we katunuulira embeera nga bw'eri ne kasalawo nti akabonero ako kwe twewolera ensimbi okuva mu banka ez'ebyobusuubuzi kajja kusigala ku bitundu 9.75 ku buli 100, era kalaze nti bwe tunaatambulira wano ebyenfuna mu ggwanga bijja kwongera okutambula obulungi. Mwebale nnyo.
Mwebale nnyo Mwami Victor Walusimbi, musajja wa Kabaka. Kaakati bwe muba mulinawo ebibuuzo muyinza okubuuza, oluvannyuma tuggalewo press conference eno.
Ku nsonga ya ssente zigambibwa nti zabbibwa mu kuyita mu system, omukulu kyatunyonyodde nti ekyo si kituufu kirabikira mu mawulire.
Kale, omumyuka wa gavana wa banka enkulu ensonga eyo agyogeddeko, ekibuuzo ekiri mu ddiiro nti ssente oba ebiri mu mawulire mu kacyo kano nti waliwo ssente biliyoni ezabbibwa okuva mu banka enkulu. Omukungu wa banka, omumyuka wakulira banka enkulu, kino akikkaatirizza era n'asaba abantu ffenna tuleme kutwala nnyo biri mu mawulire kubanga ebisinga si bituufu, era n'agamba nti byayogeddeko nga wengendo biddamu nti bye bituufu, era akikkaatirizza era n'asaba nti ekyo mukitwale ng'amazima, era akikirizaamu kuba ge mazima era bino bye byaliwo. Agambye nti nga 28 ogw'omwenda banka enkulu yasabibwa okusasula World Bank. Sente zino zaali zisasula bbanja erya gavumenti ng'esasula World Bank $6,13 n'emitwalo 13 ejja dola. Sente zino zaali zisasibwa World Bank era banka bwe yasasula sente ezo ate zaagenda ku kampuni gye bayita Roadway Company Limited nga kampuni eyo sente zayita mu banka ya MUFG eri mu Japan. Waliwo sente endala $809 eza dola ezaali zisasulwa Africa Development Fund era nga lino nalyo lyali bbanja lya gavumenti lyali esasula. Sente ezo bwe zasasulwa ate zagenda mu kampani ya MGS International ng'eri mu Bungereza oba UK nga bwe mugimanyi. Sente ezo nazo tezagenda wa gye zirina kgenda. Bank of Uganda kino bwe yakiraba nti sente tezigenze gye zirina kgenda yawawaabira poliisi era ekitongole kya poliisi kye bayita CID ne kijja ne kitandika okwekebejja banka era newaaba ne mu kitongole kya gavumenti kye bayita Financial Intelligence Authority. Kino banka yali eyagala kumanya lwaki sente zigenze gye zitalina kgenda naye ate era sente gye zaali zigenze ate ziddizibwe gavumenti kuba sente za gavumenti. Era olw'ensonga eyo yalagira banka gyekozesa okusasula eyo Citibank ne yeetaba ne banka ezo ezafuna sente ezo n'ezisaba zizikomyewo. Kyamawire malungi nti sente kwezo ezasasulibwa gye zitalina kgenda $8,000,000 eza dola mu emitwalo 2,015 zakomezebwawo era si kituufu ng'amawire gabadde gagamba ti sente ezo balina we baazikwatira. Nedda, ekituufu kiri nti sente $8,000,000 kwezo ezasasulwa zakomezebwawo era gavumenti mwe ziri mu Bank of Uganda nga sente za gavumenti. Zezo sente ezaali zisasuddwa mu banka eya UK. Wabula $6,000,000 eza dola n'obugwamu awo ezayita mu banka eya Japan ne zigenda mu MUFG Company ezo tezinnadizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda olw'okubanga banka eyo mu Japan ebadde tennaba kukolagana bulungi na Bank of Uganda era n'ebitongole ebyo ebinoonyezebwa. Ekitongole kya poliisi ekya CID era wamu ne Financial Intelligence Authority bakyanoonyereza wamu ne Office ya Auditor General okulaba nti sente zino ziddizibwa. Waliwo ekibuuzo ekirala mu nsonga eyo Deputy Governor kyakkaanyizaako era n'akiteekako essira. Waliwo amawulire agabadde gayita nti kompyuta oba system eza Bank of Uganda nti waliwo abagezigezi oba mu luzungu bwe bayita bahaaka nti waliwo abagezigezi abajja ne bakozesa kompyuta okuyingira ate system eza banka nti era sente ezo zabbibwa mu Bank of Uganda. Agambye nti kino si kituufu n'akamu. N'agamba nti Bank of Uganda nga banka endala banka nsasuzi nti era bannannyini ssente bagiragira esasule ono era n'esasula oyo. N'olwekyo ssente ezo tezabbibwa mu Bank of Uganda wabula banka yasabibwa esasule era banka yasabibwa esasule era ebiwandiiko ebyagibwewa kwe ssente be bantu beyasasula. N'olwekyo okunoonyereza kukyagenda mu maaso okulaba kino kyavaawa okuba nti abantu abakyamu be baasasulwa. N'olwekyo si kituufu n'akamu n'akeddagala nti banka ssente ezo zabbibwa mu banka enkulu. Akkaatirizza nti kompyuta za banka, sisitimu za banka zonna ziringa bwe ziri era tewali yali aziyingidde okulaba nti abbamu ssente mu Bank of Uganda oba nti azikozesa okukola ebintu byonna nga bw'ayagala. So kompyuta zaffe ne sisitimu zaffe namu era zikola bulungi, ssente tezabbibwa nga bakozesa kompyuta eza banka. Waliwo n'eggulire eddala eryabadde liyita nti waliwo abakozi ba banka enkulu abaakwatiddwa era ne basibibwa oba nti bateeberezebwa okuba nga beenyigira mu kubba ssente zino. Ekisooka ssente tezabbibwa mu banka nga bwe ŋŋambye, naye agambye nti ekitongole kya poliisi bwe kyajja okunoonyereza ne Financial Intelligence Authority nga bwe balina okukola, baasaba nti buli mukozi yenna eyeetaba mu nsasula bulijjo nga bwe zibadde zikolebwa ateekwa okugenda n'awaayo statement. Era statement ezo zaakolebwa abakozi baffe ne babeekebejja era mu myezi 3 egiyise, kubanga bino byaliwo mu September tebyakabaawo, mu myezi 3 egiyise nga n'okunoonyereza kuno kugenda mu maaso, tewali mukozi wa Bank of Uganda n'omu yali akwatiddwa oba ateeberezebwa nti yeenyigira mu kintu kino. N'asaba nti bannaffe, abantu baffe aba bulijjo bannayuganda, tugumiikirize ebitongole ebikwatibwako bikyanoonyereza nti era bwe binamala okunoonyereza kuno, ripoota eneevaayo Bank of Uganda giwa bannayuganda bakitegeere nti naye wabaawo omuntu yenna gadde okumanya oba waliwo ekirala kyonna ekyakazuulibwa, ayinza okugenda n'abuuza ebitongole ebyo ebinoonyereza, CID eya police ne Financial Intelligence Authority. Mwebale nnyo.
Webale nnyo Mwami Victor. Tukomezeddwa conference yaffe awo.